So we are on page number Tzadik Aleph, in the section that begins with Dugma V'Gala Maila. What?
I just wanted to read what I wrote that I was going. Yesterday, I was puzzled by the mashal of the candle.
Okay.
And so in the candle we have three elements. We have the flame, we have the wick, and we have the wax.
The what?
The wax.
Yeah.
Body. In the Shio, you mentioned that Haora is defined as effect or reflection of Etzem.
Is what?
Haora is defined as effect, Hilul, or reflection of Etzem. The source we cannot understand, which is the source of the flame. Now,
I think you. One second. You're not touching on the principle that we were discussing yet. The Ha'ara refers to the light that spreads in the entire room.
Okay.
Not the flame, and not the oil or anything like that. Okay, that's the Ha'ara.
Okay.
This Ha'ara spreads in the entire room.
Yeah.
But it does not have a base. It's just light without a base. Just like the first day of creation, the Eibusha said, "Let there be light," but there was no luminary. Okay, so this is a light without a foundation, without a base. This is called the Ha'ara. This Ha'ara is clearly dependent on the source that does have a base. But that does have a base. But it only has the Ha'ara aspect from that. It doesn't take the real thing.
Now this was related to the mashal of the mashpia and the mikabel.
Right.
So I just had this thought that the process of the mikabel to get the ashpa is he has to nullify his personality and receive the complete message from so I was thinking that the process of the burning of the candle.
No. Just as the light of the candle illuminates the entire room, not by engaging it, but by illuminating it. The room accepts what is given to it without any resistance.
Okay.
This is how Makabel received the Hashpah from the Mashpia.
Right.
The reason he is capable of doing this is because the Makabel also has a neshama, a nefesh. And the nefesh is sensitive to what the Mashpia is teaching him. So the Mashpia is supposed to touch that neshama, that chayes, that chokhmah, that seichel of the mushpa, of the Makabel. In order to do that, the Makabel has to be open to receive it. But if he's open to receive it, it goes automatic. Afterwards, as he said, the Makabel goes into what he learned, and he tries to dig in deeper. But the initial hashpah is exactly what is given to him. He tries to understand what the Mashpia is teaching him, period. Why? How is he trying? Because he allows it to enter his mind, allows it to be understood. This is the initial. Okay, so now we're going to go to a little bit more in detail on this. And let's go. This is on Tzadik Aleph, page Tzadik Aleph. The section the top section begins from Adugam Mizeh, and we are going to start 5 lines from the top, the Nedema Shmir Iya. The Rebbe begins to speak about Chochmah. When say Meichen the Abba is above Hasoga. It is above the whole phenomenon of Hasoga. Hasoga means, as we spoke, Hasoga means that you can actually grasp something. In order to be able to grasp, in order that something should be graspable, it has to have parameters. It has to have borders, like we explained many times. How do you grasp a table? By its outer edge. You can't grasp a table by touching its top. You have to go to the outer edge. You have the periphery, so to speak, something that defines its limits. That's how you can grasp it. Chochmah does not have those edges at all. How does somebody know anything without approaching it through edges? In order to know something, you have to begin from step 1, step 2, and develop it. You have to go from, first I don't know, and now I identify this, and so forth. It has a periphery. How does Chochmah know without having these perimeters? The answer is, the Chochmah is akin to sight. Sight doesn't know things by identifying their periphery and their edges. It knows things by seeing the reality of the thing itself. Makes no difference what its form is. It has no limit. If it's visible, sight sees it. Sufficient, I think, we have said, we understand what in here. So the Rebbe explains, Meichen the Ma'aba is l'mayla mi'ishtalsus, which means Meichen the Abba are not participating. Meichen the Abba, Meichen of Chochmah, does not participate in the development of the world. Ishtalsus is the process of development of the world. Abba is above that. Because Meichen the Abba is like Re'iyah and Shmi'ah. The Nedema Shmir Re'iyah. Notice, the Rebbe said, very touched it all the time. A Nedema Shmir Re'iyah. Shmi'ah is not like to Re'iyah. What is that to help us? What is the point of this quote? The Nedema Shmir Re'iyah. It's a quote. How does that help us to enter this topic and to understand it? And the explanation is, at least the way I see it, a Nedema Shmir Re'iyah is a blanket statement that immediately arouses in our seichel the cognizance of the essential difference between Shmir and Re'iyah without having any means of explaining it. But we all feel that Shmir and Re'iyah are not the same thing. In other words, to fully understand something, you have to start from the tip that you don't really understand, but you sense, you recognize its truth. That is where you begin. This is the statement. What does that say? Nothing. It says, and we all recognize, no, there's not complement. Shmir and Re'iyah are not the same. We all recognize that. And then we go in and dig into this recognition, saying, what is in fact the difference? But if you don't have that initial sense, there's no point of finding all the other things. Then whatever you define is not the real thing. You're creating, so to speak, a structure built on nothing. So the first thing is to open up the insight that is in our seichel, that comes from our neshama, the living seichel, to sense, yes, Shmi and Ri are not the same. That's the first thing. Then your seichel is already open up, so to speak, open and engaged. Now from there you can draw, this is what Kochma, there you can draw the further examination, further explanation. You know what you're talking about. And now the difference between them, the Riyah and Shmi and Riyah, the difference between them and Yadua is known. And what it is known that the explanation is such: the Shmiya hu mirochik. That Shmiya, hearing, is an experience, is a recognition of an inyan mirochik, from a distance. What does from a distance mean? A distance means that you are separate, you are away from it, outside of it. V'hainu, which means Rag Hasogas Mitzias Adover. It means that it refers to Hasogas instead of Mitzias Adover, the presence and the existence of the thing, not what it stands for, not its essence. Mirochik. Let's take a very, very simple illustration with Mirochik. You stand outside and you look to the window and look inside the room. And you can observe everything that's in the room. Then afterwards, you actually step inside the room, which also gives you cognizance and relation to everything that's inside the room. What's the difference between this experience and that experience? When you're outside, you're observing, you're seeing its mitzias. You don't feel its significance, you don't feel its presence. But inside, you don't even look at things. But everything that's in the room has an effect on you. You are in a dining room, a living room, you are in a besmedrash, everything that's there, you absorb it by being with it. It's a completely different knowledge. It's an insider's knowledge. That's Mekorik, Chochma. Chochma is a phenomenal faculty. It senses the truth that it participates in, not by observation. There you know the mahus. You actually experience the mahus. Not Riyah, Shmiya is a mitzius. You heard about it? And that's called Hasogat Mitzias Adover. Thank you. Now, we know what hearing is. And when you say, I hear, you don't mean I comprehend, it means I hear. But hearing the sound without discerning what the sound is about is not real hearing. The principle of hearing is, like the expression, I hear you, which means I understand what you're talking about. This is Hasoga. But when your masik is mitzias adover, only that which can be demonstrated. Or Riyah mikorev, on the other hand, Riyah is a close-up. Shehu, which means it refers to Riyas etzem hadover. You see the essence of the thing, not its mitzias. What does it mean, etzem hadover? Etzem Hadover means what makes this thing true. Let's take our very simple Mishalim. We said many times, for example, a table has a certain function. And the table as such can be in the middle of the street. In the sense that it serves the same function. But a table is also a human concept. If it is only to be able to put your cup down, you can put it on the windowsill. A table has a human implication. A human being sits in front of a table and he has a cup. This Inyan that he sits in front of a table, again, if it is without an environment, the table stands in the middle of the street. Then the table represents only the chitzonius, only the functional aspect of the table, not a real presence. It doesn't belong there. It's not in the place where it belongs. If it is in a room, in a dining room, then there is what's called the Etzem Hadover. The dining room itself demands that there be a table because there's essential significance to it. That's called Etzem Hadover. So Etzem Hadover is not even a tangible part of the thing. The tangible part you can have in the street. Etzem Hadover is a conceptual inyan that comes out of a higher source. Because you have a room, because you have a house, you have a table. Completely different, the opposite. Not because the carpenter built it for it, but because there's a reality of it. That's what Etzem Hadover. The Etzem is not really a tangible presence. Re'iyah, it's an amazing thing. You see it physically, but what you're looking at is not the physical object, but what the essence is, where it's coming from, what does it represent. That's Re'iyah. When you enter a room and you see tables and chairs, you don't know these tables. You see it's a dining room, but there's tables and chairs. No. It's a dining room. That's how you see it. Immediately it calls an attention to what makes it be rather than what it is. That's called Re'iyah. Now, if you examine this phenomenon, clearly, physical sight does not speak about the right of being. Physical sight talks about the table, which immediately tells us that this Re'iyah sight is connected, is representative of what's called a deeper neshama quality. This is what we call Chokhmah, where you see things not because they're there, but because they belong there, because they represent some kind of a deeper truth. This is the meaning Mekorev, close up. Mekorev means I go inside the room, and then I feel every detail in the room, not by examining it or observing it, but by being in the room. The room itself tells you everything that belongs in this room. This is called Mekorev. And this is why this is called the Re'iyah, Etzem Hadover. Why is it Etzem HaDover? Etzem HaDover, what means Etzem HaDover? The way the thing is in its source, before it came into be a tangible presence. That's the essence of the thing. The Chai is behind it, that's Etzem HaDover. I hope this is clear. So Riyah, by definition, is Etzem HaDover. That is where the phenomenal difference between Shmiya and Riyah. Of course they're not equal. But when you say initially, Ein Adim Shmiya Riyah, we're not referring to the difference, the superficial difference, we're referring to the essential difference. When you say Ein Adim Shmiya Riyah, it immediately arouses the insight. Yes, Shmiya and that's not Riyah are not in the same world. Okay, we have the place. Hopefully, this is like we are 6 lines from the top at the end of the line. This is in Chochma. Chochma means Riyas Etzem HaDover. That's what Chochma means. Shehu, which is in a greater elaboration, this refers to and arouses his Amtus HaDover, the verification and substantiation of the thing, Loi Mitzad HaHasogo, not due to the process of Hasogo, of comprehension and identification, all the details that explains to you what this is about. No, you know it mitzad the truth of itself. Kiyim only. Okay, this is very sensitive, very important. Kiyim only. Mashebein haseichel. That with the mind's eye, roye amitis hadover. He sees the truth of the thing. K'mei shehu, as it is unto itself. Not as it is presented to me, so that I should be able to grasp it and deal with it. The thing is that as it is unto itself. That's the truth of the thing. That's what the Iyas Ein HaSeichel. And you see the Amit is Adover. You see the truth of the thing. Let's examine these words. See, Amit is Adover. You see not the thing, but the truth of the thing. Because if you have to resort to seeing the thing, you're seeing the Metzias. You're seeing the thing after the fact. Seeing Amit is Adover means seeing what compels it, what's the truth behind it, what enables it. That's Amit is Adover. And we've demonstrated in a very simple thing. A table in a dining room has a true presence. It's an amazing thing how the Rebbe created the world. From a lakus down to nefesh, to sechel anushi, all the way down to the physical world. The basis and the source of everything that exists is from a lakus. Which means that in everything, no matter where you touch it, there is what's called a truth element. Even though this has to be built and reconstructed, and the carpenter will build it and so on. But there is a truth behind it that it represents. This is what's called the Amitit Hadova, because the whole phenomenon of existence is a godly creation. This is the amazing thing, that this godly phenomenon follows through all the way down to the Gashmis itself. And you're seeing Amitit Hadova. This is where the artist has greatest sensitivity, because the artist does not see what the layman sees, what things look like. He has this talent that he goes, what does it stand for? What's the concept behind it? And this is what he tries to render on the canvas. Amitit Hadova. K'mei shehu. What's K'mei shehu means? As it is unto itself, not as it is constructed or as it has an effect externally. וכמי שכוסו במקים אחר. The Riyah, the Chochmah, which means to say that the Riyah of Chochmah, this is the Ein HaSeichel, the Riyah at the level of Chochmah, who Riyah, what do you see in Chochmah? Be'etzem HaMahus, you're looking in the Etzem HaMahus. Shalamayim HaSog, you're not looking at what things look like. You see what the Mahus, what the reality of it, what's behind it. What's the concept behind it? This is what you see. Shalamayim HaSog, that is completely above Hasoga. Hasoga means that you have to be able to dissect it and give it a tangible presence. This is L'malam Hasoga. And it cannot even be tangibly defined. What do you see? What do you see? Like I said, you have an empty room. What do you see? It's an empty room. There's nothing to see. Vezehu, and thus this is Bechinas Atzmut HaChochmah. This is the Bechina of Atzmut HaChochmah, the essence, the Etzem HaChochmah. Which means this is not the Chochmah as Chochmah speaks to Bina. This is Chochmah as Chochmah experiences itself within itself. And as I pointed out before, an extremely important part of our intelligence. The Rebbe immediately said, what did he say? What did he tell us? Who is he talking to over there? To the Etzem HaChochmah. It didn't say anything. He just alerted you to what you already know. We have to stop now, right? Is that it?
Usually stop in 4 minutes time.
Now we're going into parentheses. This is a longer track. But I hope that we got the point of here. Within Chochmah itself, there too, there are Esses spheres, there are 10 spheres. Again, where do the 10 spheres come into Chochmah? 10 spheres represent a complete presence in the world. A complete presence. That's the 10 spheres. 10 spheres are not an add-on, so to speak, some kind of a means of development. They're part and parcel of the reality itself. And the reason there is this phenomenon, there are 10 spheres, okay, this is important, is because the world is a godly creation, which means that it has a godly truth, substance. It's not a facade. It's a real presence. Even though it's only a worldly presence, which means it's a presence at the level of Ha'ora, whatever it is. But whatever it is, there's a certain profound reality to it. At the worldly level, at the limited level, but there's a reality to it. There's a word from Reb Maharash. Some philosophers came up with the idea to say that the world is altogether an imaginary reality. How would try to understand the thing? It's an imaginary phenomenon. So the Maharaj says, okay, let him tell you how imaginary is the pain that he feels when he falls down and hits himself. Is that an imaginary pain or he substantiates it? What is this retort? What is the point? The world is, in a certain sense, an imaginary creation. It's not an entity unto itself, it's being created. But the creation is a godly creation. It's a real presence, to the point where that it permeates and goes through from the top of Chokhmah all the way down to touch. And at every level it has its real presence. To the extent that if you hit yourself, it hurts. When you look at the hand, you see the hand has 10 fingers, 5 fingers. It's capable. The hand is identified by its function and so forth. But there is also the presence of the hand in the truth. If you hit it, it's going to hurt. So this is what Rabbi means to say, "B'chochmi is gam ken es spheres." Even though it's only chochma, even though it's only, so to speak, b'tar hasaga, just an observation. You would think a superficial observation. This superficial observation has all the depth of existence. All right. So here's where we'll interrupt. We don't stop. We interrupt. Have a great day. Okay.